Welcome to all of our stakeholders. I'm Tyler Behrmann, and I'll be our trail guide during this adventure. We're going to be exploring the Stay Frosty, the Wild World of Project Management Trek. Looks like the first part of the trail starts in Project Phase 1, where we will explore Part 1, primarily focused on the journey of project management philosophy from the beginning of the program to the end. If everyone could please pause, it looks like we're approaching the Project Management Philosophy Development, the Tyler Behrmann Integration Part 1. It's critical to note where my career has transitioned during this program because I've actually experienced quite a significant difference in project management strategies and just as well as just operational environments. And it's really been awesome to be able to take these core concepts and ideas presented in this course, and of course the skills that I've picked up, and actually try different things out in my workplace and be able to just adapt at an extremely higher level due to the change in my careers. And to really understand this, I'd like to kind of give a brief overview of the transition that I just described across three different critical points in my professional development. I began this program as I was wrapping up my Air Force career, where I primarily focused on waterfall and lean methodologies in my project management approaches. And I was in the aircraft maintenance sector. So a lot of our project management was really just focused on waterfall. However, we were able to then transition towards more of a lean mindset, I would say, through the continuous process improvement office. And the integration of this office was an awesome opportunity to get a part of because we actually got to see real differences just by making things make sense, primarily through reducing waste and improving efficiency. And one specific example that was probably the most effective strategy that we figured out was cutting out our templates in a different way so that we could actually fit more templates on one piece of material. And of course, this reduces the waste of the material, but also every part of the chain that has any kind of impact, of course, in suppliers' world and also in our world. However, I was then able to transition some of that rigidity and very strict framework of PM methodology as I transitioned out into a fellowship with a company called Airdyne. And this career transition was the first external challenge in my career outside of military operations. I was the lead intern for a drone project integrating drone technologies into firefighting organizations to realize essential new functions, capabilities, and benefits. I prioritized empathy in this transition over rigidity and processes over products during this learning opportunity. As such, the operational framework enabled me to utilize agile concepts and frameworks in ways not previously possible in my career. I was finally able to fully integrate into an agile team, as opposed to optimizing procedures, processes, and programs through minor lean-centered improvements. While this lean manufacturing approach was vital to enhancing our military operations regarding the aircraft maintenance industry, I had to develop an understanding of entire agile systems across a team, program, and organization. One class that really allowed me to dive deeper into my personal and professional philosophies, ideologies, and strategies and conceptualizations was HCI 538, Innovation in the Individual. While the core PM courses were essential to my PM growth, this elective created a different perspective for internal analysis through a healthcare innovation lens. In congruence with many of the self-assessments that I took during this class, I also conducted a Myers-Briggs workshop through the Air Force, and this is roughly around the same time as I was transitioning into the fellowship. As I grasped these revelations, my PM philosophies grew as I enhanced my industry knowledge and application through the ASU graduate program, as I've mentioned. And one key aspect of this was actually meeting some outstanding PM colleagues, and having those connections and conversations were vital to my understanding of these materials and also um, my understanding of these paradigms. Since leaving the Air Force completely and my Aerodyne Fellowship, I've actually worked as a Scrum Master for Northrop Grumman. Thus, utilizing complete agile frameworks has increased my understanding and appreciation for operational adaptability and sustainability. And one thing that I would like to note real quick is, as I've explained to some stakeholders as well, the lack of a clear agile or hybrid framework is apparent at high levels of my interactions in Northrop Grumman and different operational frameworks that I've been a part of. And I've actually had the opportunity to run a few operational design sandboxes, which I really got the idea from a book that we read in one of the core PM courses, The Deadline. And I'm actually working on something pretty exciting currently where I'm really hoping to take everything that I've learned in this program and apply it through the sandbox method. But I'm actually assigned to a business development unit currently. And they have some agile processes, but they don't really have a clear understanding. So it's going to be an awesome opportunity to work with these proposal managers and a lot of these higher level, almost executive employees, and bring them on board to an agile framework. And like I said, the only way to go is up, and I'm excited to have this sandbox model. I just checked the map, and it seems that we are approaching the NPM philosophy matrix. Most notable because it takes the PMG 501 project management philosophy and clearly shows the transition into the PMG 593 professional project management identity, which is really just the development of my PMP philosophy into an applied strategy that I currently use as a PM and the things that I've noticed during this growth, and of course, where I want to continue to go in the future. After reviewing my initial project management philosophy from PMG 501, I noticed some slight differences. The core concepts, elements, and strategies are all still relevant, but applying these components has grown with my career, especially the agile focused content and context that I've most notably seen during my transition outside of the military into the Aerodyne Fellowship, and of course the agile programs in Northrop Grumman. When I wrote my original PM philosophy, I recently achieved my CAPM and PMP. Thus, my brain was hyper-focused on the textbook variants of subject PMI materials. This analytical verbatim mindset was essential for professional studies, but I needed to retransition my application framework to re-implement these methodologies into my career as a PM effectively. In my PM philosophy, I annotated the PMI's critical function of a holistic stewardship paradigm in all types of organizational environments. I still have the same regard for this ideology, but I have a more profound respect for the intricate design of this concept in different project management frameworks. I began understanding that waterfall methods bake into this holistic approach through a robust PM plan for the customer, organization, and the project team. However, in agile or hybrid systems, the holistic paradigm of stewardship is embedded in Scrum Master, Agile coaches, product owners, and their respective teams through volatility, trust, and comprehensive approaches. And of course, the tailoring and adaptations into the specific team, especially if you're part of an agile release train. It appears that we are approaching the phase one conclusion. Stay frosty, the wild world of project management. And I'd like to start this series and trail by showing our journey recap at each phase and showing our destination projection. For the phase one, we really took a look at rigidity and just prioritizing concrete systems and concepts which is great from a textbook perspective and, of course, was essential early on in this program. But the point of a master's degree, in my opinion, is to really be able to apply those core textbook concepts, especially from PMI, and be able to adapt them into your career, into an actual tangible framework. And that's where I currently am in enhancing my abilities to really grasp onto the volatility of this information, um, and then prioritize the innovative frameworks and strategies. And as I mentioned in the destination, I'm just now getting started with the business development unit, and I'm really excited to drive some of this agile growth and build these hybrid systems that will really be a concrete mark in my career, but also hopefully a new page for Northrop Grumman and an innovative future in regard for agile operations. Thank you for joining me on this part of the trail, and I look forward to seeing you down the road. Hello, welcome back to Stay Frosty, the wild world of project management, with me, your tour guide, Tyler Behrmann. This part of the trail is Project Phase 2, where we'll be taking a look at Part 2 and 3 of the project management plan that you all received. In this section, we actually start to dive into the project management principles in action. While we all know the standard definitions from I decided to take the route, instead of repeating those definitions, to actually explain what they mean to me and how they relate to where I've been and where I'm going in terms of my project management career. For stewardship, what that really means to me is it's all about responsibility and integrity. Essentially, you're a steward to your project team, and most importantly, your organization and the products that you're building. As part of a team, this really focuses on interpersonal relationships and collaborative efforts to me. And that's really just diving into building that connection with people and figuring out how do you generate value and new ideas together. And then deciding how you achieve those results together. And that's actually where it kind of goes down into stakeholders, where you have to focus on engagement and communication. Those are kind of interchangeable, but of course, stakeholders extends to pretty much anybody who could have a role in the project, even those who aren't aware of it. Value really focuses on process and volatility to me. And I'm a very big process improvement guy. And you'll kind of see how my journey transitions towards the end of this phase. But processes and volatility really focus on how do we streamline this value generation, and also how do we repeat it and make it um, systematic across the team and the organization. Some of my artifacts from the NPM program have shown my journey through these. So to start off, PMG 531, my leading integrative teams final. This is where I had the opportunity to collaborate with a few exceptional individuals. It was really a blessing, and this is where the team and stakeholders really played a role to me. And one thing that stuck out to me about this course was some of the requirements from stakeholders were a little vague, and that caused the team to actually communicate more effectively, and we actually had to collaborate together to kind of understand those requirements, and create a deliverable that met those more vague requirements, but also tapped in all of our abilities. In PMG 582, developing the project management plan, we took the route to do an engineering drone project. And I really feel as though our Gantt chart is a good example of value. As you can see, it was very tedious to build out this Gantt chart. And of course, you can see our dependencies, our resources are a bit hard to see in there, but everything is combined, and this is a full project plan. It's ready to go, and we crossed all our T's, dot all our I's, and I think it really just shows that the traceability for how we generated that value. And of course, the other big thing is we built in a lot of contingencies. which are a bit hard to see in this Gantt chart, but our operational approach was a hybrid, so they are kind of built in. HCI 5 through 8, Innovation in the Individual Final. This is where it really let me dive into stewardship and value as well. I got to take a look at myself, and we did a lot of different studies, some Myers-Briggs type of engagement activities, but it really showed me how I can be a steward in my projects as well as, and this is where value kind of takes a slightly different turn. This is more where I had to figure out how to drive value in others, more so intrinsic motivation, and I really enjoyed this course for that reason. Moving on to the next four in this phase two, system thinking to me is all about connectivity and continuity. How do we connect different pieces of this project together, and how do we make it something that we're not going to get caught up in bottlenecks too often? Leadership is all about service and empathy to me. I feel like this has kind of been something embedded in me early on in my military career and has just extended with me as a veteran. This hasn't changed too much. However, I've had to learn a lot more about empathy in the civilian sector, and it has been an outstanding skill that I've had to improve. Tailoring to me is all about design and developing. And like I said, I'm a big process advocate. So I like to take those processes and centralized frameworks that I've developed and introduce those into new environments that I can. However, tailoring is crucial to the success of those frameworks. And that's why sometimes I like to put a lot of contingencies in those frameworks and make them very volatile and adaptable. Quality is all about reliability and repeatability to me. For quality to really be embedded into a product, it of course has to be reliable to the customer. And for it to really drive business revenue and business growth, especially in future opportunities, it has to be a repeatable process. Even if it is something that's extremely custom or it's hard to repeat, at least take something away in terms of quality, whether it's a quality process or just the way that you built your team. A quality team of high performing individuals is crucial to organizational success, and the repeatability of that will do leaps and bounds in a business model. The NPM artifacts that support Phase 2 version 2, we'll start with PMG 582, developing the plan for project management, drone project work breakdown structure. We took a look at the Gantt chart, and I feel like the work breakdown structure just adds a different piece of that puzzle, especially in terms of the quality and tailoring. I'm sure most of us have already built a significant amount of work breakdown structures, but I really liked this one specifically because we did have to tailor it a bit to actually match our hybrid approach for one, and also the fact that we chose the engineering component of the assignment. And as I mentioned before, quality really plays a role in here because we took a lot of time to build those contingencies in since we did choose that hybrid approach, and we wouldn't have a lot of change requests. However, those building contingencies allowed us to actually deliver a minimally viable product and deliver the entire product under budget, according to scope, and under schedule for the customer, which we also embedded a few minor enhancements as well. One of the most challenging assignments, but also one of the most rewarding, was the PMG 503 Sustainability Impact Analysis. And this really did wonders in terms for me of systems thinking, and actually to tie a little bit to part one, stakeholders as well, but especially the quality. And this really comes down to changing my mindset from sustainable as more of a term of repeatable, but sustainable in terms of the environmental impact and the green footprint. And something that was actually near and dear to me during this project was I got to take a look at some community service work that I've done where I was a part of the first 3D printed home for Habitats for Humanity in Arizona. And I got to actually take a look at this to discover some of the different possibilities of replicating that for different organizations and how that actually might reduce their environmental impact as well as have astronomical business benefits if it does become a repeatable process. Lastly, HCI 542. This is my systems thinking final. And of course, systems thinking and leadership in terms of project management really played a role in this assignment. I got to, as a veteran, the VA compensation program is very important to me for myself and as well as all my fellow veterans. Regardless of their situation, it is a essential process in exiting the military, making sure that you're taken care of and your family's taken care of in the right way. So I got to implement some systems thinking that I picked up earlier in the program, and the leadership model is this is where I really got to look at empathy as well. And it was really cool to actually dive in and discover more about the system than I realized. It's very logistical, but this was nice to break it as more instead of you're looking at files, you're looking at people, and it actually embeds end users kind of more throughout the process, which reduces the VA workload and it's just higher levels of visibility for everybody in the program, which of course streamlines things. My phase two conclusion for this portion of Stay Frosty, the Wild World of Project Management, we'll do a journey recap. So in my early project management journey, I started off, I was very analytical in this program. I had just finished studying for my PMP and the first couple of classes. That's kind of how I approached a lot of things. And I was also still in the Air Force. So I kind of took a military leadership PMI textbook perspective on most things that I did. And luckily, taking the previous 8 principles that I discussed, I was actually able to become much more adaptable. And I feel like the first 8 principles are much more centered at your connectivity to not just people, but also the organization, your customer, the environment, things of that, and just building in those different processes, systems, and quality, just methodologies and collaboration efforts to drive that growth. And that's where I was able to become, like I said, more adaptable. And as I transitioned to civilian life after my internship, more so of a fellowship with a company called Aerodyne, I received a job at Northrop Grumman for a Scrum Master, as I previously discussed. And this is where I've actually been very successful in building agile hybrid centered frameworks. And it's a very exciting time in my career. I've discussed with stakeholders in this course. And of course, I would love to get back to the program and different lessons learned that I'll have moving forward. And that's why this is also a destination projection, because I'm just starting this leg of the trail and looking forward to seeing where it goes. I'll see you in phase 3. Welcome back, adventurers, to Stay Frosty, the wild world of project management, with me, your trail guide, Tyler Behrmann. I checked the signposts while you were all resting, and it looks like we're heading to Project Phase 3, where we will see Part 4 and notably Part 5. As I explained in the previous part of the trail, I'm kind of taking a look at the project management principles in action as an integration model to me. And instead of regurgitating the standard PMI definition that most stakeholders will know, I really took a look at what these mean to me and how they've influenced my journey where I've been and, of course, where I am, where I'm heading. Complexity to me is really a combination of competency and congruency. Complexity can be any kind of variable interaction, interchangeable function that's going to change your standard input-output dynamic, right? It's not going to be a simple equation where you know the outputs every single time. It's going to be something that's new, and of course, complexity can be anything with the organization, such as a leadership change, any kind of team dynamic, or even any kind of environmental impact on the project. Really, anything can add complexity to an issue, and it's really up to the project manager to have the competency as a project management professional to be able to deal with that at an organizational level, but also have the competency as a professional in the industry that they're operating in. So you can actually build that solution that can also be congruent across the team. And really, it's not much of a solution if it's really only putting a band-aid on your metrics or things that are important to you. It's something that needs to be handled for the entire team and project. Risk is arguably one of the most important project management principles, especially that I've seen in my career. And I really look at contingencies and cautions with this. And of course, risk can be positive or negative, opportunities or threats, most notably. And that's where your contingencies are going to be for either of those. What capacity does your team have? Does the schedule and budget have to pursue those opportunities within scope even? But also, do you have those contingencies for unforeseen events, or it's just a good standard practice to build those in, especially in agile and hybrid environments when you might not have as robust of a project plan. And of course, caution, just with any risk management strategy, mitigation, acceptance, you should always have a basic level of caution and really be able to take a step back and analyze the risk for what it really is and have a realistic expectation of how it'll affect your project. Adaptability, really to me, this focuses on innovation and volatility. Adaptability, you should always be able to adapt with the times, adapt with the industry, adapt to new team environments, and that's really where the volatility comes in. Are you constantly growing as not just a project manager, but as an effective team member, as a leader in your organization, and I would also hope as a person. But innovation is the other side of that coin, where you really need to be able to influence your team to be a friend of innovation and new strategies and new technologies rather than be fearful of them. Because the industry is going to change, and as a team and organization, you really need to be prepared to showcase that adaptability level. Resiliency is very similar to the other three, but obviously a slightly different flavor. For me, this is really all about affirming and learning. To be a resilient professional and individual, you have to affirm the incident, anything that happened in a negative connotation, or even have the resiliency to pinpoint the areas of growth in a positive experience. And that's when you have to have the resolve to be able to learn from those experiences and have of course, the resiliency to progress that into something positive in the future. The three last artifacts that most notably captured those four principles are annotated here. And I will start with PMG 504, the social psychological perspective in project management. Discussion 6. So this discussion post really reminded me about a lot of the core materials that we learned in this course, and they had a significant impact on my strategies as a project manager in the real world. And in terms especially of complexity and resiliency, we learned a lot about human psychology, a lot of different human traits, and how we can actually better influence individuals, of course, in driving teams, but also in interacting with stakeholders and just generally driving positive interactions and having a good team and stakeholder environment. And of course, these help us be resilient teams in the face of any negative connotation. It helps us learn from our mistakes. And additionally, it helps us battle and be a friend of complexity. One of my most favorite sections of research in the NPM program was seen in OGL 565, Future of Work and Organizations website. This was our final deliverable for the course, and while it was not my favorite deliverable, I thoroughly enjoyed doing the research. we were tasked with exploring five different industries and showcasing where these industries are headed and what this looks like for teams. And of course, just every aspect of the industry that for at a high level that we can understand and really apply the course material to. And I have a few screenshots here from my deliverable, but most notably to me, I was able to utilize my Air Force knowledge in my military systems study. And one of my favorite research sections of this project was actually the education. So the education section was amazing to me because I found this TED Talk where this individual described where the future of scientific classroom settings is heading, which of course plays a role for students and teachers and the way that educational systems will do business. As you can see here, he actually has a VR headset, and in the video, I highly recommend taking a look if you get a chance. He showcases how students will now be able to interact in this virtual lab setting and, of course, conduct experiments that oftentimes aren't regularly safe, so they won't have the opportunity, or even for economic issues. This solves a lot of those challenges and it puts everybody kind of on the same level and provides the same access to these high level and innovative lab designs and of course experiments, and we can learn from this. Overcoming any socioeconomic issues is always critical in my opinion, but I think the way that they provide a creative solution in this aspect should be significantly utilized by every project manager. If we can simulate anything, of course, in an autonomous setting or a virtual environment that provides accessibility to all stakeholders, that's certainly something that I would like to increase my research on in the future. And like I said, this really is something that showcases the adaptability for one of the professionals in the organization, but also it overcomes a lot of risks. Like I mentioned, the socioeconomic downfalls of certain educational systems, and as well as the risk of any type of safety concerns. Lastly, PMG 502, the deadline analysis. This really does a good job of highlighting complexity. Tom DeMarco's novel focuses on the story of a project manager getting in this bizarre scenario, getting kidnapped, and of course, leading these projects, these software development projects, in a primarily agile mindset or framework. But what really stuck out to me about this that I've been able to encompass into my career is when he decided to build different agile teams or project teams and use different strategies and methodologies across the team as a sandbox. Now, I haven't had much opportunity to do that in the past in my military career or even a recent internship, but luckily at Northrop Grumman, I've had quite the opportunity to sandbox quite a few things. And it was really this novel that gave me the mindset to really think about it that way and try different things out and be able to learn again in a safe environment and to be able to build in those contingencies where if an experiment I was running didn't really go well within the operational environment, I still had a bit of a contingency to be able to overcome that, drive value generation, and just have some lessons learned and a way forward. The Project Management Code of Ethics and Conduct in Action, Part 5 of the Trail. Again, I took this part of the assignment, this part of the trail, as what these mean to me instead of just a regurgitation of standard definition. And the responsibility aspect to me is all about reliability and quality. We're responsible as project managers to build reliable and quality products, of course, for our customer, but also we're reliable for quality processes for the team. We're really team captains, of course, especially in an agile environment, agile coaches and scrum masters primarily. But we owe it to the team to build those reliable processes and be able to allow them to build quality products and generate value at a higher level. Respect is always going to come down to the golden rule for me. Of course, I learn more and more about respect as I learn more about different people and different cultures, and of course, being in different industries. And it's really just a growth mindset to build that just mutual respect across the board. And that's why I say the golden rule. Everybody should treat each other with the same respect, not only that they should want to get treated, but what I've always told people in mentorship sessions is if our CEO, if our a military officer, whatever the case may be, somebody who you would imagine deserves respect in your regard, in your behavior, you should treat everybody that you interact with that same respect. Now, you might have different conversations and the humor might be slightly different, but that should never overcome the basic level of respect you should hold for everybody. Especially as a project manager, this is critical for any set of stakeholders, especially the ones who aren't aware that they're stakeholders. You should always have just a general ethical respect for every interactive part of the project and really the outcomes that are going to be driven. In fairness, this pretty much ties into the same kind of general rule of respect. As project managers, we should always act as global citizens and value humanity. And a big part of that is driving sustainable products and organizational operations that have that regard for especially people who aren't aware that they're stakeholders. And that's why green solutions are very important to me. I definitely want to try to do my best moving forward in the future if I can to influence my organization to pursue those other options that are green. Primarily for me in my past, what I've done for this is extreme process improvement. Where can we cut down waste? So, of course, to save the organization resources and money and things of that nature. But waste reduction at the process or project level really reduces environmental impact, not only from the actual materials to formulate that product, but also to transition that product from the warehouse to your company, et cetera, et cetera. And even what it takes to recycle if you have that process in your organization. Honesty to me is all about transparency. And this really has been big as I've transitioned into the civilian sector. Not that it wasn't huge in the military, but I feel like I've been able to showcase this a lot more with information radiators. My teams have been a lot more receptive to information radiators and just basically showing it helps hold people accountable as well. Um, so you don't have to go hunting people down. People, of course, are going to be honest in their recorded tickets that they're moving across your Kanban or Agile board. And it really just comes down to having a transparent process and, of course, having transparent communications, especially with stakeholders as well. The phase three conclusion. My journey recap for phase three starts off with the U.S. Air Force. As I mentioned, I really started off my project management journey with a military mindset. And as I transitioned to my internship with Aerodyne, that also turned into extreme risk management. And these environments are very serious almost all the time. So there is very small margin for error, which unfortunately causes pretty drastic negativity across the team in certain environments. Um, there's not a lot of opportunity for lessons learned or a lot of forgiveness or empathy for those learning and for people to really test different things out and actually drive innovation in that regard. But fortunately, I've been able to take some of those lessons learned and put them into my Northrop Grumman career. And every time I join a new Agile team, I tell them my big three are communication, collaboration, and transparency. And I feel as though these three aspects encompass the final four principles and the code of ethics as well in a kind of neatly wrapped package for my personal bio or preference. But these three elements I think are just critical to building any team. Everybody needs to understand, have a positive and respectful level set and have those transparent processes in place and just make sure everybody's comfortable communicating and have positive interpersonal relationships. With that, it looks like we are at the end of the trail. Thank you for joining me for the phase three. section. I appreciate all the stakeholders who joined today during our trek on the Stay Frosty, the wild world of project management trail, and of course, all the Tyler Behrmann integrations that we saw along the way. A quick journey recap for our recent trek. Start off in phase one, where we saw the transition from a project management philosophy early on in the NPM program into a project management identity, and more so the applied methodologies that I've um, transitioned from past into current, and of course, what I'm going to be improving and enhancing in the future going forward. And of course, phase two and three, focusing on the Project Management Institute 12 principles, the Tyler Behrman version, as well as the Code of Ethics, and all those what they meant to me and how they were integral in my educational journey for the NPM program, as well as how they enhanced my career as well. I'm really excited for the future to come, and I'd just like to thank all of my colleagues and motivators, and especially the NPM faculty along the way. Couldn't have done it without you, and I'm looking forward to giving back to the program in the future.